that Dennis Rodman suffered from.
What's that?
I'm ugly, but I made it anyway.
The internet didn't just blink, it stopped breathing. Because nobody, and I mean absolutely nobody, had this on their 2026 bingo card. 1 minute, everything felt normal. The timelines were doing what timelines do, scrolling, laughing, arguing, surviving. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, a story dropped that made people sit up, rewind, and ask the same question over and over again. Wait, is this real? Because word on the street, whispers at first, then louder, then impossible to ignore, was that LB sure wasn't just casually dating Lunell anymore. No, this wasn't a situationship. This wasn't a PR rumor that fades in 48 hours. This was something deeper.
I've been on this woman for 30 years.
And he popped up on me at the Paramount.
Something serious. Something that sounded dangerously close to forever. Wedding bells, matching robes, a love story that didn't ask for approval. And just like that, the internet split into two worlds. On one side, people were living for it, watching two individuals who had survived decades in the industry, heartbreak, health scares, public scrutiny, finally finding peace in each other. There was something raw about it, something mature, something that didn't need filters or perfection. It felt real. But on the other side, the noise got ugly. Because when love doesn't fit the version people expect, they don't question themselves. They question the love. The trolls came out first, then the critics, then the so-called concerned observers, who were really just uncomfortable with what they were seeing. They started dissecting everything: age, appearance, timing, like this was something that needed permission to exist. And that's when the conversation stopped being about two people and started becoming about projection.
Peace and blessings, first and foremost.
Couldn't even, I'm like, I couldn't even get up and hug him. I'm like, what is going on?
But to understand why this shook the internet the way it did, you have to go back to the moment it all became public. Because at first, people didn't even believe it. When photos and videos of LB, Sure, and Lunell started circulating earlier this year, the reaction wasn't excitement. It was disbelief. People thought it was AI. Seriously. That's how unexpected this pairing was. That's how far outside the norm it felt to the public eye. But then, they stepped forward. Together. No filters. No hiding. No confusion. Just truth. Lunell posted a carousel that didn't ask for validation. It didn't try to explain itself. It simply existed, with a caption that quietly confirmed everything people were still trying to process. Yep, it's love. And just like that, the narrative changed. Because now, this wasn't speculation anymore. It was official. And if that wasn't enough, Al himself leaned into it, responding in a way that felt playful, but intentional. Almost like he knew people were still trying to make sense of it. Don't call us AI, oh call us AL. That line alone told you everything. They weren't running from the conversation.
Really nice. You have to admire his body because he wears his clothes so obviously tight.
They were owning it. But what most people didn't realize, what the internet completely missed in its rush to judge, was that this story didn't start in 2026. It didn't start with a post. It didn't even start with romance. This started decades ago. Because Al and Lunell weren't strangers crossing paths in a random moment. They had history. Real history. Years of knowing each other. Years of understanding each other beyond the surface. Years of seeing each other outside of the spotlight. Outside of expectations. Outside of the versions the world thinks it knows. And when a relationship grows from that kind of foundation, it doesn't follow the usual timeline. It doesn't need to. There's no pretending. And guessing games. And figuring each other out. Because they already had. Lunell even gave glimpses into that connection in a way that felt almost cinematic. He would show up, unannounced. Different cities. Different moments. Different stages of her life. Vegas. Texas. Oakland. And every time he appeared, it wasn't just a visit. It was a feeling. The kind that catches you off guard. The kind that makes you pause and question what's really happening.
You think Shannon's ugly?
Yes.
At one point, she described being so overwhelmed when he showed up that she couldn't even react properly. No perfect hug. No smooth moment. Just pure, unfiltered shock. And maybe that's the part people didn't understand. Because while the internet was busy labeling this as sudden, for them, it wasn't sudden at all. It was overdue. Still, that didn't stop the speculation. Some people insisted this had to be a PR move, a rollout for a hidden project, a strategic play designed to get attention. Because to them, the alternative, that this was genuine, felt harder to accept. And then there was Lunell's past. Her openness about dating younger men became fuel for doubt. Clips resurfaced. Old interviews circulated. People tried to box this relationship into something casual, something unserious, something temporary. But that narrative started to fall apart the more they showed up together. Because this didn't look like a joke. It didn't feel like a phase. It felt intentional. And that's when the criticism shifted. It got sharper, more personal. Because the truth is, the issue is never just the age gap. A 9 or 10-year difference between two people over 50. That's not shocking. That's normal. But what made people uncomfortable was something else entirely. It was the reversal. It was the fact that Lunell is older. It was the fact that she doesn't fit into Hollywood's narrow definition of beauty. It was the fact that Al, who has always carried that heartthrob image, chose someone who doesn't match the fantasy people built for him. And instead of questioning that fantasy, they attacked the choice. Comments turned cruel, opinions turned into insults, and suddenly, people who had nothing to do with the relationship felt entitled to define it. But here's where everything flips. Because while the internet was busy analyzing appearances, Al was focused on something completely different. Peace. After everything he's been through, especially his health battles, he wasn't looking for perfection. He wasn't looking for someone who photographs well. He was looking for something deeper, something steady, something real. And in his eyes, Lunell wasn't just a partner. She was home. That's what people missed. This wasn't about aesthetics. This was about alignment. About choosing someone who understands you when the cameras are off. Someone who doesn't need you to perform. Someone who brings laughter into a life that has already seen enough stress. And Lunell, she is unapologetically herself. Loud, honest, unfiltered. The kind of energy you can't fake. And for someone who has spent years surrounded by curated personalities, that kind of authenticity becomes rare. Irreplaceable, even. Which is why, despite the noise, despite the criticism, despite the constant opinions, the relationship didn't fade. It grew. There were even moments when people thought it might have ended. Cryptic posts from Lunell had fans reading between lines that weren't meant for them. Messages about protecting peace, about knowing your worth, about walking away. The internet, of course, assumed the worst. But insiders painted a different picture. Those posts, not about a breakup, not about him, just reminders, reflections, energy meant for the world, not a signal of something falling apart. Because behind the scenes, things were actually moving forward. And this is where it gets interesting. Because now, the whispers are getting louder again. But this time, they're not about whether the relationship is real. They're about what comes next. Marriage. Not, maybe. Not someday. But something that's being seriously considered. Something that feels close. And suddenly, the same people who doubted the relationship are being forced to confront a new reality. What happens if this actually lasts? What happens if this becomes permanent? What happens if this turns into a love story that outlives the criticism? Because at the end of the day, that's the part nobody can control. Not the trolls, not the headlines, not the expectations. Just them. So now the question isn't whether this relationship makes sense to the internet. The real question is, are people ready to accept a love story that doesn't ask for their approval? Or will they keep trying to rewrite something that was never meant for them in the first place? Because one thing is clear. This isn't just a moment. It's a shift. And whether people like it or not, The story is still being written.